a message to all the people who are participating in the protests going on right now, in any capacity, really. When I was in a political movement some years ago, one of the things they got really right was to come up with a theory of change, they called it. And whenever any kind of movement like the current one comes up, I ask myself, what is the theory of change right here? And more often than not, it doesn't seem like there is one. Here's what a theory of change is, at least what it was in the group I participated in. It's really just 3 questions you need answers to. What change do we want? Who has the power to give us that change? And what do we have that they want? Now, with this current movement, what change do we want, if I'm going to speak as one of the people involved? You have to be really specific. To say we want equality, racial justice, and anything like that, those are good buzzwords, but they're not specific. And no one knows what the end game looks like when you say that. You need to have a specific piece of legislation in mind, for example, or, although I wouldn't recommend it, some kind of hiring quota for jobs. I mean, I think that's a bad idea, but you have to have something concrete so that everyone knows exactly when the mission is accomplished. Otherwise, you get in these social movements and they're never ending. In fact, it's unreasonable to expect that they would ever end, given the fact that the day they end, all these organizations that have built up to help that goal be achieved no longer have any work to do, so their job is done, they have to go home. Now they're out of work or whatever. So it's really important. For number 1, what change do we want? Be specific, be concrete. For the second question, who has the power to give us this change? Depending on the answer to the first question, obviously. That's likely going to include a lot of politicians, sadly. And what I have found since the organization I was a member of and a big part of also had to go begging for the politicians' help, the answer to the third question for my group was, we have the vote, and they will be interested in maintaining our support, so they'll do what we ask. That's bullshit. I mean, the whole point of the group I was in was to complain about the irresponsiveness of politicians to the public will, to the popular vote. They were more interested, and rightfully so, sadly, in raising money, because that's more important and more effective in winning. For something like this current movement, I think you'll find a similar issue. If all you can answer the third question with is politicians will do what we want because we have the vote, you're going to be very disappointed, I'm afraid. A big difference from the movement I was in and this movement, however, is the critical mass may be threatened here, or maybe even surpassed. We'll see. In which case, the threat of changing your vote may actually carry some weight, whereas with my group it didn't, because we were too small, maybe premature, to try to be taken as seriously as we tried. I'm not sure. Needless to say, my group has not succeeded after years, I mean several years. This current movement already has accomplished much, much more than my group did. And hopefully that's because most Americans are ready for a significant change, and we're starting to see it happen. So good. But to recap, a theory of change. What change do we want? Be specific. Who has the power to give us that change? Largely, it's going to be politicians. In some portion, it's just going to be people you talk to and your neighbors and people you witness in public doing something egregious. that you just need to talk to. And if you want to be part of the solution, do that. Talk to people. Talk to people that need to be talked to. You know, one of the more benign parts of this protest has been the common posting of a black square for your profile picture on Facebook or on Instagram. You know, Blackout Tuesday, I think it was. And I hate to break it to you folks, that is nothing more than an attempt to make yourself feel good. Because for the most part, now of course this is not everyone, for the most part, people's friends on Facebook and Instagram are people who already believe what they believe. That's why they're your friends. And largely, if people have a very different belief than you do, you see them post some things for a year and you get fed up with it and you delete them or block them. Or you're not following each other. You're not seeing each other's things after a while because you got sick of it or they got sick of it and you've been disbanded. So what are you really trying to accomplish? You posted a black square. And who's going to see that? Other people who are likely to want to post black squares too. Even if people of a different mindset saw it, it's not an effective way to change someone's mind. It's something easily brushed aside. Breaking through with politicians and getting actual legislative change, that's a hard job. But that's a long-lasting job after you succeed. That's what needs to be done. I mean, you know that. If you're involved in this protest, this movement at all, you know that. What do we have that those people want? And like I said, threatening to withhold your vote or change your vote from them may not be enough. In my experience, it is not enough, but again, in my experience, I didn't have such a powerful movement behind me. This may be different. This may be more encouraging of a situation. But I think it would behoove anyone interested in succeeding in this movement to come up with more than simply the vote. It's a tough job because I'm certainly not advocating for violence or destruction of property. That's mob mentality. I mean, actual mob, mafia mentality. Do what we say or we'll blow up your store. That's not the way to go, obviously. Obvious not to everyone apparently, but if you know me, obvious coming from me. That's just a message on social movements, I suppose. Wanted to share my experience and maybe a little advice. Thanks.